let's be honest, as a police officer, we're trained to deal with, we're trained to get compliance from every situation. And that's just not realistic with a lot of mental health calls. And it puts us in a bad position to where either, your option is this person complies with you and you take them to the hospital for, however long your state holds them, or it turns into a lethal force situation a lot of times.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey now, Black and Blue fan, welcome to the latest edition of the Black and Blue Podcast. If you don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Dale, and I'm the host and founder of the Black and Blue Podcast. Pleased to make your acquaintance. And if you know me already, you know what me and this show are all about. We celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. And that comes in all forms, including Black, Brown, Asian, Middle Eastern officers, Native American, LGBTQ plus officers. And not only that, we welcome Caucasian officers that celebrate that diversity as well. And I've done a few shows with Caucasian officers, so it's all love here. If you guys out there want to share in the love, make sure you head on over to the Black and Blue Podcast YouTube channel and smash those like and subscribe buttons. And if you're listening to me right now on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And last but certainly not least, make sure you check out my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, now, so let me introduce today's guest. He is a 10-year law enforcement veteran in the beautiful Bluegrass State of Kentucky. Everybody, please help me welcome to the show, Officer Paul Paris. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Dale, how's it going?
Excellent, man. Excellent. Can't complain out here in sunny California. How you doing out there in the great Bluegrass State of Kentucky?
It's all love out here. I wish that we had the California temperatures. We're at about 45 degrees right now, so I'm not looking forward to going out in the street today, but it is what it is.
Sometimes we welcome those temperatures out here too. I mean, we would love to have them. When it dips below that and it starts snowing like it does. Probably doesn't snow in Kentucky, but when it gets that cold,
we get blizzards out here, brother.
Do you really? Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. All right. So I mentioned in the intro there that you were in Kentucky. Exactly where in Kentucky are you?
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, which is the biggest city in the state.
Okay, the biggest city.
We sometimes refer to ourselves as our own state.
Yeah, a little different from the rest of Kentucky, right?
It is. Louisville's totally different from the rest of Kentucky. I'll always say that.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely its own animal. I tell people, a lot of people that regulars of the show know that I'm originally from Ohio, from Columbus, Ohio, so that's not too far from Kentucky.
Right.
I think I went there once when the state fair was there years and years and years ago when I was little. But I moved out to California when I was a teenager. So glad to be here. But I want to visit the Bluegrass State one of these days. So
it's a lovely place. Just come when it's warmer.
Right. You born and raised in Kentucky?
I am. Lifelong resident.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Black and Blue Podcast. I see that you are in a department called, is that Buechel? Is that how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Okay. And that's in the Louisville area?
It is. It's a suburb within the city of Louisville. So we have several, probably at least 30 to 50 different suburbs within the city of Louisville.
Okay. Yeah. And I mentioned that you were a 10-year veteran of law enforcement. How long you been with Buechel?
Right. I've been here since early May, so going on about 6 months.
Oh, okay. And where was the other time at?
The other time was spent with the Louisville Metro Police Department, which is the main law enforcement agency in the city.
Okay, all right. So you decided to leave there. Is it a little breath of fresh air, a little change of pace for you now?
It is 100% a change of pace. It's interesting going from a large agency with unlimited resources to a small agency where you're having to kind of get it on your own. But it is definitely a change in pace as far as call volume goes. So my last assignment with LMPD was on patrol in a pretty busy division. So I would say an average day would be about 15 to 20 calls for service in a 12-hour shift. Where here, being a much smaller agency, the call volume is dramatically different.
Yeah. You say a much smaller department. What's the difference between the two? How large was Metro as opposed to Buechel?
Okay, so when I left Metro, well, at the height of my career with Metro, we had 1,200 officers sworn.
Mhm.
I believe Louisville Metro is down to, I mean, they're down significant now. They're down to maybe 900, somewhere around
Oh
there.
wow,
And
that's a big
right,
difference.
it's significant. And in my agency now, there are 12 of us.
Yeah, that's a big difference. That's a real
Right,
big difference. Real big
right.
difference. Yeah, I would have thought you would have said more like 100 or 200, but 12, huh?
No, very small
Mm,
agency.
yeah. Okay. All right. And what made you want to take that jump over to a smaller agency?
There, I think 2020 changed all of us in law enforcement
Mm,
in various ways, but I think easily 2020 was the most significant time for law enforcement since probably the civil rights era, I would say. Um, but I mean, there were a number of things that I mean, I loved my career in Louisville. I gained a lot of I mean, amazing experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Amazing coworkers, amazing. That built my career. That built my style of policing. So no complaints there. However, I believe that there were several things facing that agency that I believe are probably nationwide problems. As far as leadership issues and just morale in general.
mhm.
And I think a lot of people experience burnout, which in my case, I would say that I was burnt out after so long,
Yeah.
especially after those events. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot for all of us, mentally and physically.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of those events that happened in that area, we were talking off camera. It was Breonna Taylor. How did that affect
Correct.
you and the whole city as a whole out there?
Oh, it changed the city forever. It changed our careers forever. It's interesting, and a lot of people nationwide don't realize this. Breonna Taylor, her incident occurred in around March of that year, and it slowly spread via social media. And the department, I mean, I'll say this: the department, I don't believe, did their part in making the story transparent as to what actually occurred. So due to that, as we know how social media can be, there were several false narratives, or people created their own stories um, on social media, and it definitely spread like wildfire, which led us to the events in May that touched off the civil unrest in our city that lasted months and months.
Yeah.
Um, for my personal experience, I was a member of we call it the special response team, which is our riot, crowd control, civil disorder team. There were about, I want to say, 60 of us on the team. So we were there literally from day one, in the middle of the civil unrest from day one. Um, controlling crowds and dispersing munitions and formations. I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah.
We were working minimum 14-hour days, and doing it, going home to sleep for a little bit and then coming right back down to it. It was definitely a big challenge. I mean, it was a very humbling experience. It was a very as rough as that time period was for all of us, I wouldn't trade it because it was an amazing experience, not only as a police officer but just as a human being.
Right.
Seeing so many people come together for this cause, which, do not get me wrong, very legitimate cause, very warranted. But seeing so many people so passionate for so long, it takes a toll on you, and it just kind of reminds you of how serious this career is, and your
No doubt.
decisions. One wrong decision in a second can change the world, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. The world. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it did over there. So,
Right.
I'm sure you got a little breath, fresh air, but I'm sure, Buechel and the surrounding agencies, they played their part in, because you're all part of that metro area. So
Oh, absolutely.
it wasn't not affected. So, hey, whenever something goes down in Louisville, it's going to affect Buechel. Hey, it's going to affect all of us out here in California.
Oh,
So,
it absolutely. And that was one thing with that experience was, I mean, we couldn't have done it as our agency alone. We
right.
had, every other suburban agency in the county, some agencies from out of county, the state police, our federal partners, they all came to assist us. And I mean, it was required. We wouldn't have made it. The city would not have made it without the help from other law enforcement entities.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad everybody made it out, okay, and we still got a lot of reform to do in this profession
Absolutely.
and in the society, and that's what I'm hoping this show kind of helps bring about. Showing us, the side of the badge, the other side of the badge, than what you just see on the
Right.
media. Hey, this is part of the media too, but another part of the media. So, yeah, I love that. Love that. So, you said you were born and raised in the Louisville area. Tell us about a little bit
Right.
about your background. You got brothers and sisters. You got the mom and dad, all that out there.
Right. So I'm an only child. So I've got mom and dad. I was raised in what's referred to as the West End of Louisville, which would be the predominantly African American area town. Lived there my whole life. Well, actually, I lived there my whole life up until I graduated from the police academy,
Mm,
and then moved out to a different area of town. But that experience in itself was helps build your character as well.
right.
Um, so I got into law enforcement. Actually, my father was a 30-year police officer in the
Hey,
city.
thank him for his service.
Um, Absolutely. So obviously, I grew up around policing and was exposed to it as a kid. So it's interesting though because I grew up around policing, and I went to work with dad all the time and hung out with cops when I was a kid, and you think you have a general idea how this career can be, but I mean, until you get into it and you're doing it yourself, obviously you have no idea.
No idea.
Um, but in high school, do you guys have police explorers out there?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so in high school, I joined our police explorer program, which was great, and it was, very insightful. We got to ride along with the officers and learn, skills and, to help prepare us for a career. And luckily, it worked out great for me. Um, I went to college. I left Louisville to go to college. Stayed in the state, but went out of town for college. Um, and I was a police cadet for our college police department for a little while, so that further built on some
Hmm.
experiences. And lucky for me, I was able to get hired by our department. The day I graduated college, I was in the academy.
Wow. It just had everything lined up, man.
It
Yeah.
did. It lined
Good
up.
for
I was
you.
blessed. I was blessed.
So he didn't try to discourage you from getting in this profession. I know a lot of people now are telling, hey, if I had to do it over again, would I encourage my children to do it? But what
Right.
was his feeling on having his only son?
He did not discourage me. The one thing that he did say was, he's like, do you sure you want to do this? Like, why wouldn't you want to go federal? If you want to be a police officer, go
Gotcha.
federal. He would always say that. But he was big on letting me find out my own life for myself. You know what I mean? He would never discourage it. I think, and also, back then it was a different time in policing.
Yeah.
Policing was nowhere close to where it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. And you said you graduated college. What's your degree in?
I got my degree just like the majority of other cops. I got it in criminal justice.
All right. All right. Put that to good use.
If I could go back, I mean, I did. It was a good degree. It was a good program, but I think if I could go back, I would probably change it to something different.
Yeah. Yeah. I've said this before, but as an FTO, I usually, and as a we talked about Explorer programs. I'm an Explorer advisor, and I try to tell those kids and new officers as well to get that education in something other than administration of
Absolutely.
justice, criminal justice. Only because if you get hurt tomorrow with 1 year on, you're not going to get a job anywhere else with an administration of justice career degree.
Totally agree.
So try to get it in business. That'll help you out. Business, accounting, computer, you can get in anything really. Because
Right.
police work is accommodating for all those kind of degrees. You can use all that sort of stuff in different assignments. So yeah.
I totally
But,
agree.
hey, if
I
you
would
got that
strongly
administration
impress
just
upon.
yeah, if you got that administration of justice degree, hey, that still works out for you. You got that piece of paper that says you know how to follow through. That's all it really
Right.
shows is that not that
Right.
how smart you are and aren't. It just shows that you know how to take a task and follow through to the end.
Totally. I would recommend if there was anyone who was considering being a police officer, um, just know you do not have to get your degree in criminal justice. I would strongly recommend getting it in some other practical skill. And like you said, you can still be the police with any other degree.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And you said your dad kind of wanted you to think about the federal side of things. Is that on your mind too?
Right. As a young officer, absolutely not. And I mean, I love being a street cop. I love, you
Yeah.
know, being on the street. But now at this point in my life, yes, federal law enforcement is seeming very appealing at this point. So I have been considering federal law enforcement for sure.
Better do it before you hit 37 because that's the cutoff.
Right. I still got time.
Yeah. Because you're only 22, right?
That's right. Right.
Right. Yeah, you're only 22. All right. And back to family life. You got special someone. You got little ones that you're trying to discourage from not being a police officer yourself.
I've got two boys, two young boys. My oldest is
All right.
9. And yeah, there's at this the way that our career is now, there's no way that I would encourage my boys to be police officers. I mean, I don't get me wrong, it's a great field. I love being a police officer, but I would not want to worry about my sons the way that my parents had to worry about me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate that I mean, for one thing, that's just the nature of the beast of our job. But then on
Right.
top of that, all the other stuff that's going on in society right now that we talked about, how law enforcement is changing. Do you guys see a lot of that stuff going on out in Kentucky where I wouldn't say the cancel culture, but a lot of things, yeah, maybe it is a cancel culture where a lot of things are not bookable offenses anymore. There's no accountability in what the criminal element is seeing. We got more people rooting for the for the criminal element as opposed to law enforcement
Right.
nowadays. Do you see that out in Kentucky?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we haven't had too many crimes that have been, I guess, decriminalized. However, yeah, there's a lot of problems with our court system, I'll say. It's and that's probably been going on forever. I mean, it's been going on for as long as I've been a policeman. But we have career criminals that officers are putting solid criminal cases on,
Mm-hmm.
but the court system is not following through with the prosecution or a suitable punishment for their crime. And there's every day I'm running into people that, and I'm sure everybody else can relate to this, but I'm running into people who have been felons multiple times over that are still walking the street committing more crimes,
Right.
and that's putting the entire community in danger because and the public, I don't think the public realizes this, but a lot of times you'll hear people say the police aren't doing their job, the police aren't doing their job. No, there are plenty, and from my personal experience, there are plenty brave men and women out here every single day who are risking their life, risking their safety to apprehend these dangerous people. However, when it goes to the court system is who is failing us. The court system is who is failing the community by continually releasing these people or continually giving them these very light sentences. So
Yeah,
that's
no
that's
doubt.
something that I would definitely say.
Yeah, I mean, and things are being decriminalized, and we're talking about defunding, um, police movements.
Right.
How's that hitting your communities out there?
So I, we're not huge on the defunding aspect of it. However, and this has always been something that I've agreed with. I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe in taking away some of the responsibilities of the police
That part,
and passing them to the appropriate situation. And what I mean by that is, I've always said that the police have a hand in too many things that we have no business dealing with.
hmm
Um, for instance, mental health. I mean, we're just the police. The police have become the default response for any and every situation, and it shouldn't
yep,
be like that. For mental health would be one issue. I mean, for our state, my mental health training was a 40-hour class in the
right,
academy 10 years ago. That's the extent of my mental health experience, except for what I experience every day on the street. A trained mental health person, what goes to school for what 8 years, something like that, and then has
right,
plenty of practical experience every single day. That's their specialty. That is what they do. They should be. I'm a firm believer. Mental health professionals should be involved in police work,
yep,
and they should be the people who respond. And other cities are doing this, and I think our city is slowly trying to work into a program to where mental health people, social workers, whichever, are responding to these incidents as they should. Because let's be honest, as a police officer, we're trained to deal with, we're trained to get compliance
yeah,
from every situation, and that's just not realistic with a lot of mental health calls, and it puts us in a bad position to where either your option is this person complies with you and you take them to the hospital for however long your state holds them, or it turns into a lethal force situation a lot of times
yeah,
because we don't have that experience to deal with those type of mental health situations. That's not our strong suit, unfortunately.
right, right. And you hear a lot of people in our profession talk about when this defunding started coming up, sending mental health professionals out to a situation where you got the naked guy on PCP out in the middle of the street, wielding an axe.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that's obviously going to the extreme on the other end of the spectrum.
Of course.
However,
Of course.
we can look at it as I know out here in my county that some mental health professionals are assigned to police departments and they actually ride out, they have radios with them and they hear these calls come out and then they come out with this. It'll be no different than we joke about this as police about fire that they don't do anything until we clear the scene, right? It could be
Right. Right.
right. It could be the same way as far as these mental health professionals. They don't do anything until we clear the scene, and now that it's safe, hey, bring them on in, and they do what they got to do, and we can go 10-8, or we can go
Oh yeah.
leave, go back to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Secure the scene, make sure everything's good, and send them in to do their thing.
yep, absolutely. But
Yep. Totally.
and defund, back in the day, it's really about reallocating some of these funds because back in the day there were
Right.
funds for different programs. Um, Mental health. I know that out here in California and probably across the country, Ronald Reagan and a few other presidents and governors released a lot of mental health people from these institutions, and they're back out on the street where they're not getting their treatment, they're not getting their
Right.
meds, they're not getting any therapy out there on the street, and
Totally.
we are like you said the default. And call the cops. So and then
Right.
that's where a lot of the
Right.
homeless situation. What's the homeless situation out there in your area?
Whew. I was just talking to a friend of mine about that the other day. So when I started 10 years ago, my patrol beat was downtown Louisville, downtown, the heart of the city, businesses and a little bit of residential, but primarily business area.
Mm-hmm.
And the homeless population at that time, I mean, you would see the occasional person out, panhandling or,
Yep.
maybe one or two people sleeping on the sidewalk in downtown. But overall, downtown was a safe, very clean area, for lack of a better term, because the homeless population generally hid like in the woods. They were kind of like out of sight, and they had these massive, like campgrounds, pretty much that they
Yeah.
all lived in for the most part. Or because we have very few actual homeless shelters, and I think that's a problem as well. Um, but for the most part, you just didn't see that many homeless people out on the street. Now, I mean, it is. I mean, now there's pretty much no regulation, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
of homelessness. They homeless people are literally everywhere you turn in downtown. And it's not just downtown anymore. It's spread out into all the suburbs and every other community where in the past they just weren't present. Now it's literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Downtown, I used to love, especially as a younger guy, going downtown out to the clubs and stuff like that. Now I try to avoid downtown as much as I can and that's one of the reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. When I go downtown LA, I'm sure you've seen those pictures that every corner
Right.
just lined with tents and all that, and
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
it's a shame. It's a shame. It was
Absolutely.
back in the day, it was just regulated to just Skid Row. You've heard of Skid Row, but now it's
Right.
all of LA, and it's terrible, and it's permeated even in my little neck of the woods out here in the suburbs as well. So it's it's
Mhm.
it's something that we need to get a hold of somehow. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but money is the key. I'm sure money is the key, right?
Absolutely. So that
Yeah.
that would be another thing that the police should not necessarily be involved in. I mean, we get called, excuse me, we get called consistently to deal with, oh, this
Oh
homeless
yeah.
guy's on my property, this homeless guy's outside, blah blah blah. Well, if the city or the state put the funding into creating more shelters and adequate shelters at that, I don't mean just like a 20-room place. I mean we need to take over a large hotel, something
Yeah.
like that, for these
Yeah.
people to be housed in and then have the actual support that they need. I mean, obviously, I'm thinking
But
on a smaller scale here, should I
but you
forward
know
to
what?
it,
You
but
know what? In dealing, yeah, same with my agency, I'd say 60% of the calls every day is dealing with the homeless population. And like I said
right,
before, we have resources for a lot of these guys, but they don't want to take those resources. They want to live their lives the way they with no rules, because a lot of these shelters and places that we're talking about here have rules. You got to be sober. They don't want to do
mhm,
that. You got to come in and at this time, all these rules, and they want to live the
right,
free lifestyle, so they don't take up
right.
these resources. So I mean, it's that part too.
Yeah, same here. I've definitely experienced that as well. They don't want to follow the rules that the shelters have.
Yep.
They definitely won't be sober. They can't take their pet with them.
Yep.
So yeah, there's totally a lot of reasons why people choose not to take those services.
Yeah. Yep. But we'll get a handle of it someday. I hope. Someday.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you like to do when you're not working? Sounds like you got a little bit more free time, and you're not working 16-hour days anymore.
Right. Right. I'm a dad first and foremost, so I love
There you
spending
go.
time with my two boys. Every pretty much my free moments when I'm not at work are spent with them. And I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly good with that.
There you go.
Um, so spending time with them, taking them places, teaching them to helping them grow. That's my
As you
that's my
should,
free
brother.
time right there.
As you should, brother. Yeah. So you're not hitting the clubs out in downtown Louisville anymore, right?
No, my club days are over. Those those days are over, and I'm fine
Yes.
with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And the big monster out there is would it be University of Louisville, or would that be UK?
If you live in Louisville, you're not allowed to be a UK fan. I'll say it
Oh,
out
really?
loud. So it's
Yeah.
it's Louisville all day.
Okay. Well, both of them are really basketball schools. Louisville's got a little bit better of a football history as of late because of Lamar and a couple more.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Do you follow Louisville?
Uh, not as much as I used to, but I do watch a game every once in a while. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. And then, so we were talking about, you grew up in an African American part of town. Your dad was a 30-year
Right.
cop, so you didn't really have, so your friends and your relatives kind of telling you, hey, why you want to go be the police? Obviously, because dad was the police, but you didn't really have that kind of blowback from anybody in your circle.
Um, I mean, of course, there were some friends that would always question it, but it wasn't anything like totally negative. They wouldn't be like, I'm not going to be your friend because you want to be the police, things like that.
Right.
But there were a couple friends growing up who would always question it. But I mean, those real friends will accept your decisions. I would say now, I mean, I run into more strangers who ask that question as to,
Yeah.
why do you want to be the police? Why are you out here? And some people will never understand it. You can talk to your blue in the face, but some people will listen, and some people will just always have that negative view of policing.
Yeah. And we talked about, how Louisville's down, a bunch of bodies. It's like that across the country. What do you think
Mm,
is the remedy for that? How can we get more people in general to join police? But we need more people of color. What's the remedy there to get more people
absolutely.
of color into these police departments?
We definitely need more people of color. I mean, it's generational. I mean, you can't realistically you can't take a group of people such as ourselves who historically have been, you know, let's say historically police and minorities do not have the best relationship, period. So it takes kind of a rebranding or just a better explanation as to, this, we have to accept what our past was as a profession. We have to accept that there was a lot of wrongdoing in the past, but we also have to explain that, for the overwhelming majority, those days are long gone, and we are working to be a better profession. We are working to be inclusive. We need minority people to serve our communities, especially. I mean, it's just unrealistic to have a highly populated area with different, numerous different cultures, creeds, races, but have an all-white police force serving them. That's just totally unrealistic, and it's not. It's just not conducive. You know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what we see though. Mostly
Right.
yeah, white police forces, male white, and we need more
Totally.
people of color, more females, more of
Absolutely. So
everything in there.
I think I think that it takes those black officers who are on the street or who are in the department. It takes them reaching out to people in the community, of people, minorities in the community, saying, "Listen, you know, I'm out here doing this job. This is what this job has done for me. This is the, you know, you'll get to experience this, this, and this, but you need to give it a shot." And like, you have to be passionate about the career field to actually be able to reach through to people like that, though. And one thing I'll say is, if you're a police officer who's responsible for recruiting in your agency, if you're serious about getting minority candidates, then you need to be recruiting in places where minorities are. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like if you're not in barbershops talking to people, you're not doing your job right. If you're not in beauty salons, if you're not at the nail shops, if you're not in the gym, then you're not reaching the people that you claim that you want to reach.
Right. But what do you think that they are recruiting in colleges and job fairs, right?
Colleges. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I see consistently is people are always, recruiting from colleges. And okay, yeah, that's well and good, but if you're sitting in a room with, several other career fields, most of them are going to be paying way more than police departments are.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, somebody has to be interested enough to even walk up to your booth and talk to you. So I just don't think that that is the best way to recruit. I mean, you literally need to be out in the field approaching people because people aren't going to come to you.
No.
You need to go out to them, like, go to a ball game, go to a street ball game or something, go talk to somebody. If you're in the line at the grocery store, I mean, let's think about, I was talking to my buddy about this. Let's think about all the times that kids or teenagers come up to us in uniform and say, "Oh, I want to be a police officer." Okay, well, when you have somebody who is at age where they are actually eligible to come up to a police officer or to become a police officer and they walk up to you and say, "Hey, I'm interested," don't blow them off. Like that person that comes up to you in the store when you're trying to get your groceries before you go home, that could be your next future leader of a police department. That could be your next beat partner. That could be somebody who is extremely successful in law enforcement, but you just have to take the time to engage them a little bit.
Yeah. So you're talking about department wide. Everyone's got to be invested in doing that, not just the recruiter,
Right.
not just the not just the
Right.
chief or the
Exactly. It's
commander,
not
whatever.
just
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just the recruiter, it's the individual officer who's out there every day dealing with people.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what, that image and, being approachable and all that comes in as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, because, kids all the time, yeah, they're going to be enthralled with us and, interested. And yeah, I get kids all the time. Hey, can I have a sticker? Cause we carry around stickers, but then when you start to
Right.
get those in their early 20s, those are the ones who you want to have start joining up, and they're not gonna come up
Right.
to you. So you got to actually approach them,
Right.
just like you said. Yeah, no doubt, no
Mhm.
doubt. So what's it gonna be like for you at Buechel PD? What's in store for you?
Um, it's we're a growing agency. We have new leadership recently, new leadership. So it's there's a lot of potential. It's coming. It's a small agency, of course, but there's a lot of potential for the future, especially um, when you're an outgoing officer.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hopefully there be a promotion maybe in
Okay.
the near
Yeah.
future. Hopefully that works out.
Yeah. What's the city like? How large is it? What's the demographics of it?
It's a fairly small city. It only stretches a few miles each way. Primarily retail stores are our jurisdiction, but there's several residential areas as well. The demographic would be um, actually I'd say it's a pretty diverse community.
Okay.
Um, I run into we run into the whole spectrum of people every
Yeah.
day. So there's a lot of diversity here
Right.
in
And
the
if you get a
city
lot of
in the
if you
city
get
as
a
a
lot of
whole as
retail,
well.
a lot of people are coming through. A lot of diverse groups are
Right,
coming through on the daily, at least the
right,
daytime population. Yeah.
totally, totally.
Yeah. So what do you like most about being a police officer?
Um, there's several things, um, and you know, people say that when they get hired and they ask you in the academy, why do you want to be a police officer? Like, oh, I want to help people,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, there is a lot of truth to that if you're actually passionate about the career. If you're just showing up, if you're one of those guys that just, I've always said there's a difference between a police officer and a person who shows up to work in a uniform. You know, um, so if you're that police officer who actually cares about the job and actually wants to make a difference and actually is invested in what you're doing every day, what like I'd consider myself to be, then I would say you get satisfaction out of legitimately helping someone.
Yep.
And by that I mean, you're actually doing something to make the community you work in better. You're actually helping victims. You're actually um, just legitimately reaching out and helping somebody who's called you for assistance.
Hmm.
And then further, I would say the greatest thing is um, removing a criminal from the street who is just out victimizing our community.
Right.
That is our main focus. So when you have a true, as I said earlier, the people who are multiple time felons that are on the street, if you can put a solid criminal case on them, in an effort to get them out of the population where they don't need to be if they're out still committing crimes, then I get satisfaction out of that totally.
Yeah. No doubt. And what's a challenging part of being a cop nowadays for you?
Um, let's think. Um, I think one of the challenging things is just the general, and I think every police officer nowadays could probably relate to this, but it's the worrying about if something goes sideways on let's say that something goes sideways on a call for service, how will this play out to the public? Or will the public understand, this is the reason why this officer took the action that he did, or was it justified? So the challenge would be, I guess just ensuring that you're doing your best to make the right decisions every day.
Yeah. Do you find, because with the media, there's a camera on every corner. There's everyone's got a camera in their
Right,
pocket that can live stream
right.
to Facebook and YouTube in a second. You find a lot of officers, whether it be at Metro or over at Buchel, don't really want to get engaged anymore because, like you just got done saying, they don't want to
Oh,
be the
absolutely.
next viral video.
Right. No, absolutely. That's a fact. A lot of officers are hesitant to do anything because they don't want to be the next viral video. They don't want to be the next national court trial.
Yep.
However, like my style of policing, and this is what I've always taught when I was in FTO, is what I taught my rookies is that you should be coming to work every day with the expectation that somebody's watching you. Like every action that you take, you need to just expect that you're being watched, and you need to.
Yep.
I mean, you should be policing regardless. Even before we had body cameras, you should be going out there every day doing your job as if somebody's right over your shoulder watching it.
Mm-hmm. Because they are.
But yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah,
Because they
people
are.
are, literally. I mean, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Every time you make a traffic stop, you can look over and there's somebody driving by, recording you on their phone, or
Mm-hmm.
somebody standing on the sidewalk, and it could be, something very simple that you were just going to give somebody a warning for, but they think it's the next headline news story for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Have you ever had an experience where somebody's intervening because you're on a traffic stop or just a pet check or whatever you're doing, and people want to come up and
Yes.
get involved in your situation, start questioning or start recording, and they've got nothing
Oh,
to do with
absolutely.
that person to begin with.
Absolutely. I mean, there's several times that I'll have a car stopped or have a person stopped, and a crowd of people will walk up and start asking questions, blah blah. I'm like, hold on, you don't have anything to do with this. Let me deal with my stop first, and then if I have time, I'll explain this to you.
Right.
But on the other hand, I've actually had people who have seen me out. If I was out by myself on a stop, like a pedestrian stop. There was a pedestrian stop one time I was out with myself, and the guy started to get aggressive. And a guy driving by actually pulled over and asked me, "Officer, do you need some help?"
Wow.
And I was like, my partner was a little while away, and I was like, Actually, I do." And he actually pulled over, got out of his car, and helped me get the guy in custody. So that was refreshing.
Yeah, really refreshing, I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah, you don't see that too often, but hey, that's Kentucky.
Right. It was nice.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So you said the future hopes for you, maybe profession. You're gonna stick it out the whole 20 more years or 15 more
We
years in the profession?
so 15. The Kentucky retirement system is 25, so I've still got 15 left. Will I stick it out? I mean, that's the plan for now.
Yeah.
However, like I said, I am interested in federal. So if I get lucky enough to get into a federal position, then it would be worth it to do another 20 there. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck and all that, and
Thank you.
much success and safety over there at Buechel and whatever you do, and bringing up those boys to love UK.
Right. Right. Never have been.
Never gonna happen. All right, man. I appreciate you. But like I said before I let you get out of here, I got a little game here for you. I like to play with my guests. So let me get this up
All
for
right.
you. This is called Bluegrass State or Ain't. Bluegrass State or Ain't. Let me turn down this
All right.
music real quick. This always gets too loud. All right. There we go.
My old Kentucky home plan.
Yes, sir. That's what that is. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you a celebrity, and you just tell me, are they originally from Kentucky or not?
Okay.
Real simple. Hopefully it's real simple for you. All right.
All right. Let's
Let's
go.
make sure. Here's your first one here. Rajon Rondo, is he originally from Kentucky or not?
He is.
He
He's
is.
from Louisville.
Yes, he went to that place that we won't speak about, but yeah, he is a Kentuckian.
Right.
He is an original Kentuckian. He's out here playing for the Lakers now, so
Mm-hmm.
on our
He
bench.
is.
So all right. How about George Clooney? Is he originally from Kentucky or not?
He is. He is
He
from
is, you know
Kentucky.
that
I don't
one.
think he was here long.
Yes, originally from Kentucky. All right, 2 for 2. You know you're Kentuckians. All right. How about Cardi B? Is she from Kentucky?
Nah, Cardi a little too ratchet for Kentucky.
She ain't from Kentucky. She's from New York. All right.
Oh,
How about Will Smith? Is Will Smith from Kentucky?
nah, no.
Nah. We all know
Philadelphia
that
born
one.
and raised.
West Philadelphia, born and raised. Yes, he ain't from Kentucky. He is from Philly, Pennsylvania. How about Nicole Scherzinger, origin from the Pussycat Dolls?
Yeah. Nicole went to Manual. She's from Louisville.
Yes, you know that one then. Yes. She is a Kentuckian. Yes. I think she's on Masked Singer or one of them shows now.
Yeah, one of those like Dancing with the Stars type shows.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. How about Tom Cruise? Is he originally from Kentucky?
I don't think so. I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say no, and you would be wrong. He is from Kentucky. Yeah.
What?
He been in LA
Maverick
a while, but
from Kentucky.
Yeah. I don't know how long he was in Kentucky, but he was born in Kentucky. So he's originally from Kentucky. Yeah. All right. Only a couple wrong here. A couple more for you. How about Muhammad Ali?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, Cassius Clay, born and raised in Louisville. Yep, he is a Kentuckian. We're doing splendid here. How about Daniel Craig, 007?
Bond?
Bond.
No, Bond's not a Kentuckian.
No, he is not a Kentuckian. I had to throw that one up. He's from England. If you got that one wrong, we would just have to stop that one.
Man, delete the whole interview.
Yeah, how about Ice Cube? Ice Cube, is he from Kentucky?
Nah, Cube ain't from here.
Nah, he's from LA. He is not from Kentucky. And last but not least, how about Florence Henderson? Played Mrs. Brady on the Brady Bunch.
The Brady? No, I don't think Mrs. Brady's a Kentuckian either.
You would be wrong again. She is a Kentuckian.
Oh.
Yes. But you know what, man? You got more right than you got wrong, so we're going to call you the winner.
I'll take it.
Go up. All right, yeah, get them hands up. Yes, you did it. You did it. I appreciate that, man. You got through that. A couple threw you for a loop, man. But as long as Cube and Daniel Craig didn't throw you for a loop, we all knew
the important ones.
And Will Smith, because everyone knows that in West Philadelphia, born and raised. Yeah, that's not just a line from a song. He definitely was. So. All right, my man, I appreciate you for coming on. This was real fun. We had a little technical glitch there that I'll try to edit out. Heck, I'm still talking about it here, but whatever. We got you back on. It's all good. I appreciate you, man. You be safe. How about something for the viewers and the listeners before we let you get out of here? Some words of wisdom on the way out.
Words of wisdom. I'd say if you're looking to promote, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Make sure you're going to take care of your guys. And if you are already in that area where you're a supervisor or a senior leader in your department, I'd say, don't forget where you came from. Make sure that you keep in touch with the guys on the street every day, or the guys in investigations. But make sure that if you've been in leadership for a while and you necessarily haven't been an investigator or been on the street in a while, then take some time and go out there and ride with your guys and see what they're doing. Because obviously, our career changes every day. So if you've been out of the field for 5 or 10 years, you got a lot of catching up to do. So just make sure you stay in touch with your guys and see what they're doing.
Great words to live by. Great words. All right, my brother, I appreciate you. You be safe when you go back out there on the street today, and we'll talk soon.
Right. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
You got it, man. We'll talk to you.
All righty.
All right, Square Pegs, that's it for this episode of the Black and Blue Podcast. I want to thank former Louisville Metro and now Buechel, Kentucky police officer Paul Paris for dropping by the show. I enjoyed our conversation, Paul, and wish you much success at your new department. I also want to thank all of you out there for your continued support of the Black and Blue Podcast. Let's keep this thing rolling in 2022. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another fun and fact-filled law enforcement interview, but till then, y'all know it. Say it with me. Stay black in blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.